단체로 다이너마이트까지 야.
Pick. Does he want to go for Bedosian or Prophet? It's going to be the former. Mister out of the fight. Dynamite going to be good. Taking them lower and lower.
큰일 났는데요? EMP 치기 전에 그냥 프로포 다 터뜨리는데요. 거의 지금 EMP는 거들 뿐.
Hit just that. They hit bits into you. That is an easy win, really.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the last match day of the regular season here for APAC. I am Ilios, joined by Wolf. He's over there. I always mix it. Yes, he is. Okay, there we go. I can actually see it this time. But we've got one match for you today, and it is a repeat matchup. These guys have faced off against each other now for the third time in the last 2 weekends. It's Seoul Dynasty going up against the London Spitfire yet again. London seeing if they can make this a 1 out of 3 record. Otherwise, Seoul might just be able to claim them 3 out of 3 times.
That's right, and despite a bit of a flop yesterday against the Hangzhou Sparks, Seoul does come in favored, and I know the Seoul Dynasty fans are going to say he's cursing us again, but I think we have to accept that. I do want to set the stakes here in terms of who's favored, and that's definitely going to be Seoul Dynasty. So we'll see if they can bounce back after yesterday. This match doesn't have any real implications for playoffs. Neither of these teams' position in the seeding is going to move as a result of this match. It's just our very final APAC match for the regular season.
Yeah, it's about whether you get to move into the playoffs being uplifted and having that nice victory, or if you're going to go into the playoffs mentally boomed. We're going to find out which is which for which team. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at the Seoul Dynasty's starting 6. And at this point, we've come to anticipate this. This is not going to be any surprises at all. We still have Toby alongside Bedosian. We still have Marvel in with 2U.
Yeah, same lineup. It's the control variation of Marvel 2U. We'll probably see Gesture come in maps 2, 3, and potentially beyond. Prophet fits together. A powerful duo on paper. Prophet has been playing Hitscan as of late, leaving Fitz to the Sombra role, but it does sometimes create problems when they have hero pools that don't line up correctly on certain maps, and it does catch them a little bit off guard. They had problems yesterday with Adora's Adora's Reaper.
Yeah.
When we saw that on Eichenwald. So sometimes there are some awkward moments for Prophet on the hit scan, and Fitz is a hit scan player, but he plays Sombra. He's a Sombra player, so that overlap is a big problem for Seoul right now. I wonder if they're going to experiment with changing that up a little bit tonight. It's hard to say when they had a match just yesterday, and they're really focusing on playoffs. I don't know if they really want to give us any more hints, but I'd love to see if they're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, given, like you said, given the fast turnaround since yesterday, whether or not we're going to be seeing any further experimentation. For the side of the London Spitfire, they will be changing up their starting 6 a little bit, but as far as whether or not they're going to change their strategy, we'll have to wait and see. We still see J-Mac and Kleston in that tank lineup with Blister and Babel, but Krillin will be stepping in over Highly alongside Sanguinar for the support role.
Yeah, interesting to see Krillin and Sanguinar in together. We'll have to see what Krillin is going to be playing. Obviously most famous for his Zenyatta, the lineup we see here and the meta, I think it's very unlikely. We saw a ton of Glister dominance yesterday, and I think Glister is really the player to look out for here for the London Spitfire. And I kind of alluded to it yesterday, but I don't know if London's going to get to keep this guy next season. They might have to send him to a better team. He's just worth so much. His salary demands are going to be so high. Like this guy, I think, is on a higher level than the rest of the team right now, and I'd say that it's kind of been true all season long, but it feels like here at the very end, when London is back on the downswing, even though they had a big, they were going up and up, they're back on the downswing. I feel like he's not. The rest of the team is having some issues at the moment, but he is just still god tier every single map. And it reminds me of, in a lot of ways, Fleta back on his days on Flash Lux. He's not deadlifting, but he is definitely in by far and above the player who's performing the best.
I mean, London did not like that comparison at all. When you bring that out, them versus Flash Lux, I think we can still confidently say that London Spitfire is infinitely better than Flash Lux was back in the time.
Sure, I think we can say almost any team is better than Flash Lux at this point.
That's a good point. Boston is better than Flash Lux. But I understand exactly, the comparison that you're going for. It does seem like he is the standout player when things still aren't going fully right for the rest of the squad. So yeah, I mean, off-season change-ups could be very interesting when it comes down to Glister in particular, but who knows? Maybe he believes in this roster and believes in their potential growth and will stay with them. But time will have to tell on that front, as well as how London Spitfire is going to fare in this matchup versus Seoul Dynasty. It's the third time out, like I said. They really would love to beat them this time and not just completely get swept each and every time versus the Seoul Dynasty, at least picking up some maps, making this a much more competitive series than they have been, just last weekend, would still be improvement for London. But both of these teams are looking for a bit of a bounce back after some flops yesterday. We did see London go up against NYXL, and it was a very rough series. Was able to get, a win on the board to try to run things back, but they couldn't quite get past Volskaya to force us to that map 5.
Yeah, and New York was playing Nene-less, I should say. Without Nene, they were playing Libero. It was kind of a strange New York as well. A lot of people pretty heavily criticizing the level of play we saw in that series as disappointing from both teams yesterday. But I wonder, if London Spitfire is, again, we have to say this. I know not every caster wants to say this, but I'll say it. We're at the end of the regular season, and these matches don't matter for playoffs. Like, we can't take these matches too seriously. We can't read too deep into them. It's all about just pride at this point, and team morale. Oftentimes that can play a factor, but let's see how they perform today. But let's not read too much into it going into playoffs, because this is again a match to finish the season, but not to earn anything otherwise.
Yeah. Well, so far, no big commitments coming in. Marvel's still going to be running the Wrecking Ball here. Is getting jumped on, takes quite a bit of damage. The shield will save him, at least for the time being. It's 2U. He'll be put to sleep for a little bit longer. Point unlocked, contested by both sides. London start to get the cap. A nice dynamite going to be lobbed into the back here by Glister. Gets a bit of damage through. Not leading to any kills, and no one not locking down this point yet. Both teams kind of taking their time. Hack out onto J-Mac. That will expire. He leaps back over to the point where Fitz is getting left on. He'll go through with the translocator back to the Mega Pack, but it will be an exchange of the main tanks. J-Mac for Marvel, as the point still has not been locked down by either side. Sanguinar now asleep. The sleep darts from Bedosian have been absolutely huge so far. This might finally lead to Seoul Dynasty getting this cap. Sleep dart not going to connect there onto 2U. And Seoul Dynasty will be the ones to go ahead and lock this down first.
Yep, they're going to get the first cap, and London Spitfire have great ults to retake. They need to retake this fight. This fight needs to be the retake fight if they really want to swing this into their favor. Babel actually unseen here. Looks like he wants to prevent Bedosian from using the nano boost. That's his primary aim here.
Well,
he's successful.
Managed to find Bedosian, gets 2U as well. Fitz, however, still alive, still holding onto an EMP of his own. Now he will strike, finds Babel, finds J-Mac. And the former will fall very quickly. Seoul Dynasty is still going to be in control of the point right now as J-Mac tries to retreat. Hacked out the Bob, jumping away at he and Kleston. Wherever they poke their heads out. Even with the res coming back through onto Babel, J-Mac will now fall, so it seems like Seoul Dynasty will just be able to hold on to this point for a bit longer.
Yeah, the engage we saw there onto Bedosian and 2U, like the EMP itself and the follow-up engage was pretty smartly done from London Spitfire, but they couldn't secure the kill onto 2U. If you get both kills, I think you're in a really great spot, but Toby gets the res off onto Bedosian, who then gets to do a follow-up nano boost onto 2U to help clean things up. And London Spitfire traded ultimates unfavorably, and now with 65-0, there's not a whole lot they could do to outlast Seoul Dynasty here. Nano boost Primal's all they're really hoping for, and even if they get the flip, holding on to it is going to be such a challenge.
Okay, well, they get the hack of the Bionade onto Marvel, so they eliminate him, and he's in a pretty rough position, but Toby with the Valkyrie still manages to dive in and get the res, putting the Wrecking Ball back in the fight. 2U going to be hacked, knocked out of the mech, cannot use that self-destruct to try to make his way back in. And you can see the self-destruct there from Klesson will finish off the Baby D.Va, but he gets punished, not allowed to remech either. So an exchange of the D.Vas thus far. Fitz out of the fight, going low. Juggle comes through, J-Mac does manage to find Bedosian, but needs a bit more than that. And then Spitfire, they have the point now with Marvel falling to the bomb and the res on the Babel. Seems like they've done enough to go ahead and hold this at least for the moment. But like you said, traded unfavorably in ults. Babel is going to perhaps have an EMP sooner than Fitz. He's just 2% above, but there's a Bob, there's a self-destruct, and a nano boost here for Seoul Dynasty.
They need to engage with the EMP before Seoul Dynasty touches the point. It's too late though. I think already the Bob's on the point and the push is coming. Okay, they shut down Fitz before the EMP is ready.
So they do take him away. Not seeing a res yet.
Yeah, this is
Toby,
defendable.
So, yeah, so seems like they buy themselves a little bit of extra time. And now we'll come down to this use of the EMP from either side to see who can either wrest control away from the other or maintain it. We're falling low with a really short little hop on the translocator.
They need to be proactive here, though. I mean, everybody's at half health, or the tank line was at half health for just a moment there, but they need to actually go ahead and engage in. They gave Seoul Dynasty the first move.
Yeah, J-Mac got taken down. The EMP comes out, does find Klesson. The Nano Boost is invested from Krillin to try to keep him alive, and so far it is working. Lister finds one as Prophet falls, but Toby's got the res ready instantly to put him back into the fight, and he nearly has another bot built up. Flip comes in for the Seoul Dynasty, now at 98%. London do manage to touch right at the last second here. EMP comes in, clips the DPS members on Seoul's side. Prophet's still staying alive and actually finds kills on the back end of it. The res comes out onto Krillin to put him back into the fight very quickly. It's a bit of damage, and Sanguinar does fall here. Could be quite costly. The Dynamite chips away, gets rid of the Baby Diva. Glister trying to fight back, trying to keep them in this as the point starts to flip here. Bob just going to be capping this one pretty much solo. Goes back in, 99% the OT going to be bleeding away. Babel is nearby, as is J-Mac. He'll get the touch on the point. It's tagged up down to about half HP and has to exit. Starting to bleed away yet again. Nano Boost invested onto the Winston, but he can't make his way back over onto the point. A nice push away from 2U will stop him from tagging, and the first round goes the way of the Seoul Dynasty.
It does feel like in moments where London has control of the point and slight ult leads that they're not willing to push the Seoul Dynasty to fight off the point. They're not willing to be the aggressors when they have faster EMPs, when they have these setups where they are down on control meter. And, you know, even in some of these fights, Babel has EMP just a second faster, or it looks like he could get EMP a second faster. I mean, we're watching him literally stand with his supports when they're defending the point. You've got to be more proactive. You've got to take bigger risks. You've got to be ready to EMP the backline. You've got to be ready to force that fight off the point for Seoul to buy time for the rest of your ultimates to come online. You take the fair fight on the point down on ults like that, and you're going to lose the war of attrition every time. And I think London, maybe they're not counting their ults correctly, but I think it's more of an issue of just passivity, something that needs to be addressed heading into playoffs.
Well, first over to the point. Seoul Dynasty just kind of beeline their way here to get Prophet up onto the high ground. So far has not spotted Glister, but Ocean has. Bionade will lob in. So they've got eyes on him. They know which angles the crossfire should be coming from. Therefore can keep their heads protected. Drop down comes in. Prophet going to be hacked. Has to be careful here. And actually will just get pushed off the side of the map by Klesson. A really nice capitalization on that hack, making sure that he can't coach gun his way back onto the platform. Marvel rezzed back through, but London Spitfire very convincingly win this first fight of Lighthouse, and now they have the point in their control.
Yeah, pull your glad plans up for that one. Klesson getting 75% of a self-destruct, doing the majority of the damage in that fight. The hacks and pull-up bio grenade make it difficult for Seoul Dynasty to pivot a retreat. Now Seoul Dynasty going to have to take a slow approach here, but they do have a really nice window of time to get the flip with a pick before that EMP comes online.
With the Nano engaged, they managed to get Toby right off the bat, so making sure that they can't bring anybody else back into the fight. So will just be a single ult win fight here for London, and that's exactly the kind of efficiency that they need to be looking for if they want to take this to a third and final round. If they can just continue to roll in this direction, then we very well could be settling this all on well. Another great pick there for Glister. Gets the headshot on the Prophet. They try to go in for the res. Will manage to find it. Dynamite gets a bit of damage in, but doesn't connect onto Toby nor Prophet. So 2U will just be soaking that damage. And Krillin, however, now taken down. Now Pack comes in onto Glister. He's trying to survive, but Marvel manages to find the kill. Only Ocean found here on the side of Seoul Dynasty. They're looking for Toby. They take him low. Primal Rage gets popped. He's trying to swat him out of the air like a fly, but he can't quite get on top of that Mercy. So he's still hovering around, still keeping people topped up. J-Mac is not going to be able to find too much with the Primal Rage. Will expire. He falls down to about 200 HP, drops back down to the point, throws out the bubble. Toby floats off the side, so no one comes to his aid, but it might not matter because J-Mac is now gone. Babel uses the EMP, hacks 4 members on the side of the Seoul Dynasty, but they need to follow up to desperately come through. Press is there on the J-Mac. Marvel going to be taken down, so they swap out on the Winston, bringing one back into the fray as the other exits, and London Spitfire will actually hold control of this point. Seoul Dynasty did not get it at any point.
Yeah, this is really bad timing for Seoul Dynasty. They have an EMP here on the point, but there's not a lot of follow-up to use Demect. Bob goes
managed to
out.
find one. They meant to get two people, rather, with the EMP. Babel does fall, but Klesson stays alive, throws out the self-destruct. Res brings Profit back in. The OT going to start bleeding away pretty quickly here. Valencia not having too much staying power. Marvel's going to have to try to play the point, but already has popped his shields. J-Mac getting a nice little bit of cleave damage here on multiple members. Almost gets that Primal Rage online. The heals will start coming through, so the Dynamite does not burn him down. Kleston trying to pistol his way back into the mech. Getting pretty damn close, but will get finished off in the end by the Bio Nade. But this is looking like London Spitfire should absolutely be taking this fight. The OT will bleed away, and they will, in fact, have it 100% to 0. So last round will be well to decide who will be the victor on Ilios. London Spitfire, can they finally take a map off of Seoul Dynasty?
I mean, they're the closest they've ever been of the 3 series we've seen so far, and you know, you can see the Seoul Dynasty coaches looking looking on in the background there, kind of tensely, as this was a map that a round rather that I feel Seoul Dynasty had no business getting 100-0'd on, especially because London Spitfire staggered their ultimates so slowly there, that was the game plan. They wanted to stagger ultimates and win that longer fight, but that was not to win the map, but to get 99% and then to return and look for an EMP fight, something like that. But Seoul Dynasty actually just ended up losing that longer fight when they had better ultimates online and never got the cap, so that's always frustrating to see, a very rare. And, you know, honestly, I think the tank line for London Spitfire was the best part of that. 2 primals in that longer fight from J-Mac, he absolutely carried.
It was a good look for him. Right now is being a bit of a battery here for Profit on the sideline. Just get clipped by the Dynamite. Coach guns his way up onto the high ground and continues to try to build towards that Bob. Ghoster was slept for a moment there, but woke it up and is back into the fight. Did not get punished, so London can continue to contest the point here before we have an initial lockdown. The Dynamite value coming through from Profit, but gets dove on. J-Mac going in rather deep. Falls low, now has to leap out to safety. Has that mini pack hacked, as well as the heals coming through. A great shot from Glister will get rid of Profit, but the Bob cuts him off, so has to wrap back around the side. Lesson will lose out on his mech, and Toby gets safe enough to go ahead and bring the res back through. So it seems like Seoul Dynasty should be holding on to this point for quite some time as they wait for the respawns on the side of London.
I'll watch how Seoul Dynasty is going to do this next fight. They're not going to take the fight on the point very likely. I think they're going to look to be aggressive as London approaches. They have an EMP, but they also have Nano Primal. They know that London Spitfire probably don't have their own Nano Boost, so they can either engage with EMP on the point, or they can use the Primal aggressively, defensively, as they do approach. You can see here is Marvel jumping in early. Oh, trying to take out J-Mac. He knows he has the advantage, and there it is.
Yeah, will just be eliminated. Marvel just waiting, hacked, but not taking too much damage here yet. Now we'll be able to go ahead and leap back to safety, or he'll get topped up and start fueling that next Nano Boost for Bedosian.
And that's a really good understanding of ult tracking, right? He knows that J-Mac has neither a Nano Boost nor his Primal, so he and the rest of the team can look to punish J-Mac there, try to focus him down early, and he has both, so he's going to be practically immortal. Bits looking for this aggressive EMP now. They're just staggering ults one after the other to hold on to this point.
He was waiting to see if Babel was going to be leaping back with the translocator, which he desperately wishes that he had right then and there. 2U and Fitz managed to push in to finish him off. The EMP burn from the side of the Seoul Dynasty, and they very much are winning the fight. Now 71% on the board as Profit cleans up the final 2. London Spitfire going to be in one fight territory, and they need to try to do this somewhat efficiently if they possibly can. 80% now here. EMP still available, as well as that self-destruct.
Yeah, and London Spitfire, you know, they have a lot of staying power on this point, but they need to get kills. They need to convert that EMP into 2 or 3 kills. And if J-Mac had the Primal there, that would have been disastrous, because that's not how he wanted to engage. It's not with the rest of the team together. He does escape and is going to get healed up by Krillin now. London Spitfire out of time.
All right, well, Fitz going to be eliminated. Babel bionated, taking a little bit of damage, so waiting for his opportunity to use the EMP. J-Mac's got the Nano Primal rolling. Will get slept off on the sideline. Looks like he should be safe from punishment overall. EMP will be used solo onto Marvel. Now starts taking a bit of damage as a flip comes in for London Spitfire, but they don't get any picks, so there's no extra time or percentage bought for London Spitfire. Seoul Dynasty can come right back into this fight.
The others healing up right now and getting ready to head in. They tried to spy check Babel out to make sure that there weren't going to be any hacks when they do decide to commit the tank line in. Marvel has that Primal now online. He's going to go in deep.
Battle's gone. 2U finds that pick off. Marvel looking for a little bit more. Gets the hit on the Sanguinar. Now Krillin will die without being able to use the nano boost. Blister taken down as well by the Primal Rage, and it looks like Seoul Dynasty should just be able to get this flip back into their favor pretty soon here. There it is, only 29% on the board for the London Spitfire as the OT bleeds away. J-Mac gated off. They get the break onto Kleston's mech and finish off the Baby Diva very quickly. J-Mac dives back in, has the nano here from Krillin as he tries desperately to survive to get the Primal Rage online. Does have to exit, grabs the Mega Pack, looks to go straight back into the fight, but he needs to buy so much more time. Blister nearly has a Bob, but that's about it. Fitz will have an EMP. The Bob going to be tossed out as Blister does die. And it seems like that will be it. There you go. The cleanup comes through as the OT plummets away. And the Seoul Dynasty will be able to take Ilios away from the London Spitfire, making sure that they cannot get a map win on the board yet.
I mean, we were seeing very clearly Seoul Dynasty know how to take a lead and extend it. Their ult economy usage there and how they committed in with better ults. You know, for example, that first cap where they went in and committed that Primal Rage and the Nano Boost off the point to try to cut the London Spitfire in half, try to take J-Mac out because they knew he didn't have Primal, they knew he didn't have Nano. It's impossible for him to have those things when you're tracking ultimates as well as Seoul Dynasty, as you know that. Just playing really well around the advantages they had when they let the point go as well, when they're willing to let the point be capped, regroup, and then re-engage. That's just really impressive movement from Seoul Dynasty. And you could see against a team that isn't quite as coordinated and doesn't quite know how to fit those things together as well as, for example, Hangzhou Spark does. Seoul Dynasty looked like a completely different team. The level of opponent here really shows, I think, the difference for Seoul. It's not just Seoul having a god tier day, whereas yesterday they totally bombed it. You could just see the difference in level of play. And Seoul Dynasty can dismantle a team that doesn't have that experience like London Spitfire.
Yeah, I mean, a decent step forward for London to put a map win on the board to take us to a third and final round, but it wasn't nearly as close as they would have liked it to be to get them close enough to potentially take that third and final round. So unfortunately for the London Spitfire, are now going to be 0-7 versus Seoul Dynasty across the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So still a rough position to be in, but we'll see if they can tie up the series and finally break that losing streak versus Seoul when we come back from the break. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. for auto, home, or renter's insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And we are back, so we can carry on with the rest of this series. So far, it's going to be the Seoul Dynasty leading 1-0 over the London Spitfire. Some close rounds on Ilios, but overall, Seoul just managing ults better, taking better fights, and tracking ults on the opposite side a lot better than we're seeing from the London Spitfire, so they net the win.
Yeah, I mean, they just are understanding how to capitalize on advantages that they have, which is really nice to see. And this is, to me, you know, again, this match isn't like a hype match, and I hate to be the one to say that, but, you know, it's the truth. But it's cool to me to watch this match versus yesterday's match for Seoul Dynasty and just see how I think a lot of people will over-criticize Seoul Dynasty or say, well, they're so inconsistent, they're so up and down. But you could see how they played yesterday, which wasn't like a super stomp or anything that they totally got crushed in, but they lost yesterday, it struggled yesterday. And then today you could see, wow, when you look at them against a weaker opponent, look how smart they look how coordinated they look at how well they track ultimates, look at how they are able to collapse on people, how they team fight well. When Prophet is given space to work with, he looks great as well. We are going to see that same gesture sub like we saw yesterday, it looks like coming through. It's just, it's interesting to see how experience really plays into this, and a team like London Spitfire doesn't know how to punish those things, doesn't know how to look for those things, doesn't know how to you know, be aggressive when they have small windows of time where they can get picks while they're trying to hold on to that point. You know, Seoul's got 99, you can't afford to lose any team fights. You've got to be aggressive, you've got to take risks. If you just play passively, you will end up getting rolled over in ult economy. It's how do I put this? I feel like it's just really enlightening to see the difference, if that makes sense.
I think I get where you're coming from here, but yeah, I mean, if Seoul can continue to look really strong against London Spitfire, that's all well and good for them. But you know, if they're going to have repeat performances like they did versus a stronger opponent in Hangzhou, which is still one of the weaker ones in the region, then we have to be a little bit concerned. Route 66, though, is our next map as we get ready to move into Escort to see if the London Spitfire can come up with a win. Had a strong performance on this map just yesterday versus NYXL. Can they do it again? Can they replicate that success on against the Seoul Dynasty, rather?
That is the question. You know, we see a lot of full holds on this map because of how the meta is played and how the defender has long sight lines. There's the EMP factor that comes with that, where you often get, if you win the first few team fights, you get the second EMP before your opponent gets the second EMP, and that kind of starts to snowball and steamroll. You combine those into one word, steamball. It starts to steamball. So you can see that stat down there. London had the all-time fastest Route 66 time set against them by the Spark, but let's focus on the defense first before we get into talking about that, how that could happen. And it is going to be mirrored compositions, it looks like here. I don't think Toby's actually going to stick with that. Nope, just look for a right click out of the gates. Prophet doing the same, looking for a headshot. Is going to swap over the more consistent Ash. It's just going to be the straight mirror. London Spitfire playing back here with the exception of Babel.
Yeah, just kind of working his way into the back line. Deep cloaks. He wants that mega pack, so we'll be able to grab it. But needs to get back up towards the front to start farming for that EMP. Fortunately for him,
yeah, that was kind of a weird translocator, right? Like he moved slightly forward faster, but that's not, I mean, your translocator cooldown is so much more valuable than that, I think. Ooh, what a shot!
Yeah, really great tracking there from Glister. Finds Prophet, all popping up in the air with the coach gun, says, all right, you're dead. Rez will come through, and he's going to be able to safely drop down. Dynamite consumed by 2U. Just denying really that nice extra bit of damage coming through. I almost said raid damage. You can tell how much I've been playing World of Warcraft lately.
Well, you know I always know how much you're playing.
Very true. The nice perks of being Battle.net friends, you can see how much of my life I'm spending on that game. Well,
I like Cluster's getting value off that Mega Pack, by the way. He's just kind of hovering on it non-stop.
That's going to be the Nano here, built up pretty quickly for Bedosian. Krillin matches, tosses his out, but A little bit later, will be Winston for Winston. J-Mac manages to find a kill, so we'll manage to get a DPS each on either side, but the res is there from Toby. Always in prime position to bring Profit back into the fight. Knows that that's going to be one of the most important players that they can possibly pick up. Will dodge as 2 just sits behind the big girl sign. Doesn't have to worry about that self-destruct. And now London on the back end of that bomb. Look to capitalize. Primal Rage is out, knocks 2U away. You can see the jetpack's not going to last long enough for him to rejoin back onto the side of the cliff. So will get taken down. And London, this is where things can get scary for Seoul Dynasty, because this is where NYXL was held last time.
Yep, and this is where London Spitfire have the opportunity to, if they do play aggressively, which they did not on Ilios in similar situations, where if they do play aggressively, they can look for an EMP fight, get a single pick, and look for, 6v5. It is going to be Fitz, I think, however, is going to EMP first, just based on positioning right now, and that translocator usage from Babel. There it is. He slept, but he gets the EMP off.
Yeah, does manage to catch both supports. The bomb at the back will find Glister. Wasn't able to create enough distance away from that self-destruct, as he couldn't use the coach gun. Apple, however, still going to be fine. Both supports still alive, so Sanguinar brings Glister back into the fray, and now he's on the hunt. He's wrapping around from behind. Spots Badoshin. Bubble comes down. Will go ahead and protect him. Looking to push back from the coach gun onto the bomb to make sure it doesn't get deep into the back line. Sleep Dart now connects the back end of that to go ahead and just dismantle and disable the bomb. J-Mac tries desperately to exit. Nanoboo's now going to be tossed out onto Jester so he can chase forward. Enough space has been created for Toby to get the res on a Profit for what feels like the 5th time in this map alone. Glister, however, finds that headshot. Tuck goes in, will not connect with anything that I can tell, but they still get the break on the mech. And we're down to 45 seconds here for the Seoul Dynasty. London Spitfire looking very good. Still have a self-destruct on the way as well as a Primal Rage to hold them off.
Yeah, and with the Primal there, you can buy time for that EMP. I think the Nano Boost commitment onto Gesture was a little bit of an overcommitment. I think that they could have just regrouped and looked for the next fight where he's going to have the Primal and the Nano instead of just the Primal. J-Mac has his own. He's slept at the moment.
Yeah, we'll be taking a nap.
You can see,
stuff from
he's got Primal.
Doesn't find anything. The remake is there, however. So will still be around. Fitz and Babel. This is the race for the EMP. See who can have the biggest impact. J-Mac spotting multiple people. Goes to the ledge. Wants to get some knockoffs. Getting the Mercy going to be a little bit difficult, but still batting him away. Toby will fall. Just too much damage coming through. Badoshin cannot do enough to try and peel him off. Tries to get back into the spawn room. Will not be allowed to do so. Meanwhile, 2U alone over on the card. Can't use the self-destruct to try to get the remake. Gesture cannot survive even with the Primal Rage. And it looks like London Spitfire, it was not a fluke by any means yesterday. A full hold comes in on Route 66. And now they have a win condition to put a map on the board for themselves.
Yeah, but let's not forget that Route 66 has been full held a lot recently, and there's certainly the opportunity for the fuller hold here from Seoul Dynasty. Really have to appreciate J-Mac's Winston play, though, on this map. Building faster primals, the synergy between him and Krillin was good, but even better was the synergy between him and Sanguinar. Sanguinar keeping him alive at sub 50 health a few times there. It's going to be the EMP sleep. The EMP goes off just before Krillin gets that off, but they still able to capitalize on killing him immediately, which is why the EMP didn't really get the value they were looking for. Bomb goes off right afterwards to secure the kill onto Glister, but he gets rezzed, and it's actually a really nice team fight from London Spitfire. You really have to appreciate the crisis management there.
It was, except for Babel making the blunder of using the EMP. Hit nobody, but looked like he was trying to just really assure the kill onto Fitz while he was sleeping, make sure that he wouldn't be able to translocate out. But definitely a bit of an overcommitment with that EMP. And Babel has been very consistent in oftentimes throwing out EMPs for little to no value. So I think that if they could tighten that up specifically, it would help out a lot with chances.
Not only that, but he used his translocator earlier, so it was always going to be Fitz's EMP first in that situation. Well, taking a look at Seoul Dynasty here, you're just going to be running the same composition, no surprises whatsoever. See the leap back from Gesture, Dynamite's out.
Yeah.
Seoul Dynasty, they do have to play very carefully because just one small misstep and you will not be able to get that fuller hold. Suddenly Babel gets the faster EMP. If he uses it correctly, then things can just end in one big major old team fight.
Yeah.
So they have to be careful. They have to play passive. Fitz is the only one who can really afford to take risks right now. Bustin is spy checking for him non-stop.
Jester and JMac both get tagged up pretty low, but JMac is doing a bit more with his time. You can see him leading right now towards that primal range by about 14-15%. Babel on the hunt, would love to get a hack onto one of these tanks. Instead, we'll just go ahead and cloak, wrap around the side, and look for a new target. Boost is up for Badoshan. He's going to dump it because he knows he's going to die. Tosses that one out. It will be a trade out as Fitz does manage to find Krillin. So Ana for Ana, but now Gesture joining him in the grave. Means that London Spitfire will be looking rather good. Rez comes through. Put Badoshan back into the mix. We'll see the same from Sanguinar for Krillin. Pretty even
Fitz
overall right now on the fight.
They're going to have to tag, and Fitz is going to have to get that last part of the EMP. That's their only hope here. That's all they've got. Anubis out first for Krillin.
Yep, JMac dropping down to you, knocked out of the mech, doesn't have a self-destruct to try to get his way back in, and somebody's going to have to touch this point. The Baby Diva going to be finished off now. Ana's gone yet again as JMac stomps his way to success. Gesture cleaned up by the Bob. Toby just dancing around the backside of the cart, trying to elude line of sight, trying desperately to get the res, but they knock him away with a primal raid right at the last second. EMP will come out from Fitz, but it is far too late, and the London Spitfire will make Route 66 an extremely fast map for us as they complete the full hold. They push through to success. They have finally stopped the losing streak versus the Seoul Dynasty. We are tied up 1-1.
I think a lot of this is on the, the map architecture allows Glister to be kind of a carry player. There's a lot of long sight lines. He's a really, really good Ashe player. He's been their strongest player for a long time now. But also, JMac is playing really well. He's getting a lot of support value put into him, so he's winning a lot of these tank trades. And it's crazy to think that despite, or rather, how do I put this? London Spitfire has an incredible hold. They get a fast cap, and Babel had extremely low impact on both the attack and the defense. It was almost like they crushed that map 5v6. And we have to be critical of Babel's play a little bit recently on the Sombra in particular, even though I was Babel's biggest fan right before this, on his Widowmaker.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty big statement that on a map like Route 66, London Spitfire could do so well even when they're losing the Sombra matchup so consistently.
I don't know. It's a weird series is all I think I can say for the moment. We can go a little bit more into this and how we think the rest of this series is going to develop when we come back for our game break. But tied up 1-1 as we get ready to go into halftime. So London definitely hungry and looking for that victory here. They do not want to be taken down by Seoul Dynasty 3 times in a row. We're going to find out if they can turn things around and keep moving forward, keep trying to get that victory after the game break, which is coming up in just a few minutes. So stay tuned.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
our game break presented by Cheez-It Grooves. We have a tied up series, 1-1 here in the Seoul Dynasty versus the London Spitfire. So London not getting swept this time out. They're putting up more of a fight. But boy, if this isn't an inconsistent performance from both teams, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, it is to a certain extent. Yeah, I mean, this meta is kind of weird, where we see a lot of full holds on Route 66 because of how much of a defender's advantage you get. You've got long sight lines. It's a map that really plays into London Spitfire's strengths, right? Like I was saying before with Glister. And unfortunately for Seoul Dynasty, they kind of fell apart. You know, I was saying earlier, they have if they make one really false move, then when you have that full of a hold, it's just over. And that's what happened. They had a lot of ults almost online. You know, they almost had the primal delay, the EMP, which was so close to being ready, which Fitz had to use at the very last second. It was too late at that point. Everything falls apart. So again, I feel like Babel also was pretty low impact on the Sombra. It almost feels like, and I don't mean to really single him out too harshly, but it almost feels like his Sombra has gotten worse over the last few weeks. It's almost as if he feels this. I could see the way he's playing. It's not like he mechanically has gotten worse, but his decision-making has gotten worse. It looks like he's playing nervous. Like he's trying to make every EMP count, or he's trying to make sure that he doesn't get picked. The way he translocates, like we saw that weird translocator towards the Mega, where I'm like, oh, you can't use your translocator cooldown like that. I mean, you can, but there's a huge trade-off. You're not going to be able to use it to escape later. You're not going to be able to use it to engage later. Just stuff like that. Like his translocation away, so he couldn't EMP. This was why Fitz got the first EMP off just moments before in that the first attack. Just little small things like that are showing up, and yet London still wins Route 66 with a really hard hold. I think really speaks volumes to how well JMac is playing with the supports and how well Glister can play when given sightlines on a map like Route 66 and A of Route 66.
Yeah,
I think what I'm trying to say is if Babel could play like 20% better, London Spitfire are, you know, really a solid 6-man team. He just has to reach that point.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I think both of these teams have really strange consistency issues, at least from what I can tell. Because, like, you know, going back to last week when Juster was in, he was actually performing extremely well. His decision making was often quite good. There's a lot of great communication coming in with the back line, so he knew that when they could dive to get kills and whatnot. And then we come into like Route 66 and things look completely different. There's that synergy that we saw before is just kind of gone. And London are now the ones in the driving scene, and they're the ones who are having the follow-up consistency and whatnot and are playing together well, where they were lacking that on control in the first map. It feels like this really weird pendulum swing that's going on with both of these teams. You know, like they say, like a broken clock is right twice a day, and it feels like Route 66 was the time that the clock is stopped at for London Spitfire, where it's correct. But when we go into the next map, it might be broken again. I don't really know. But let's do our crunch time. And I want to ask you, Wolf, what is the one thing for each team, they could be different things, that they should primarily focus on to improve as we get ready to go into playoffs?
Well, I think obviously, you know, for London Spitfire, I'll just echo what I was saying about Babel on the Sombra, you know, just play more confidently. And that's something that's hard to say. I mean, it's not like he's missing his shots. It's not like he's, you know, he's totally whiffing his EMPs. I mean, he has had a few iffy ones for sure, but he's playing nervous. I think he's got to work on his confidence. And that might just be because online he's been criticized extremely heavily, not only on the Korean side of things, but on the Western side of things as well. So that might be messing with his confidence. He's got to get his head straight. He's got to take that extra week and you know, kind of talk to the team, talk to the coach, and throw away those fears and those nerves. And that's what I think London needs most of all going into playoffs. And for Seoul Dynasty, it's hard to say. I really feel like they need another DPS in their core. Like right now, if they're just going to run only Prophet and Fitz, then there's certain holes that can appear because Prophet can't run Sombra. He just simply can't. So you have Fitz running the Sombra, and then Prophet has to play hit scan sometimes. And his hit scan is pretty good, but it's not amazing. And his Ashe has actually been very impressive, better than his Widow. But we saw yesterday problems with his McCree. You know, they got crushed by the Reaper on Eichenwald, and he just wasn't able to understand. Like he can shoot them in the head with the McCree. He could hit the flashbangs, but he doesn't know. I feel like He doesn't have a feel for sometimes those specific weird situations. How many times are you going to see Reaper in your ranked games? How many times are you going to see it in a pro game? He doesn't know, okay, I know how to deal with this Reaper as McCree specifically. He knows to play McCree, and he knows how to click heads, but the way he positioned himself, right, and the way he moved with his team, and the way the team played around him, there's like something missing there. And I think that Seoul is kind of missing that third DPS that can link these compositions together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of seems like either like somebody needs to be trained, and it's either Prophet learning Sombra, or Prophet learning McCree, or Illicit learning either, is kind of where it comes down to. It feels like, but who knows what things are going to look like in playoffs? You know, obviously the hero pool is going to be lifted. There's not going to be any bans anymore. So Genji could definitely make a resurgence here, which Prophet has shown that he can play very competently at certain times. But I don't know. It's really bizarre to think about like what these teams are going to put together, because they look pretty brilliant at times here in this hero pool, and now in this series, both teams are kind of, like I said, pendulum swing, going back and forth of looking like they're completely lost in what to do. But we'll have to see what happens, because there's still potentially many more maps to come. We have a competitive series. London finally do put a map on the board, which is pretty good to see. They broke their loss streak just yesterday. Now are looking to take this win over Seoul Dynasty. So we're going to see if they can manage that when we come back from the break. We'll have the rest of this series.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
New York City, let me hear you! What up, DC?
Welcome to the first Dallas homestand of 2020.
Philadelphia!
Overwatch has come home to Houston in front of a packed crowd here today.
Damn, it's good to be back.
Oh, the gravy, the bomb stuck back. Goodbye, good night.
Oh, you jumped upon Color Hex. Oh, very cheeky. No!
What? Project's already got it. Popo gets 4 with a fire strike. What is going on? Atlanta Rain. Self-destruct to the back like Jerry.
He tried to make the moves.
Jerry!
Oh my word, he falls to his death.
Jerry!
This is the live Watchpoint pre-show.
As you're enjoying those last hot little zips, that's not shading.
Wait, it's a live show. It's a live show. What are you doing here?
Thank you for joining us here at the Overwatch League around the world for this special online broadcast.
You know, the world's a little bit crazy out there, so hopefully we can provide a well-deserved, well-needed digital reprieve for you.
Pulse Bomb gets the stick! Ooh, that's 4 for Jinbu. Unbelievable. Another stick! And that's a duplicate for the ages.
Oh my god, Poco!
Dominated. A little bit of rough. Unlucky.
So you're 1-0, undefeated. What does that mean to you personally?
Wow, man, it's to be expected. I mean, pretty much the best player. I would argue the best player to ever live.
You just need to pick the May.
Come on, pick the May.
Pick the May.
May! Nori works!
May!
The system works! Nori is the hero we need but don't deserve.
We had an extended appetizer, but now the main course is finally here. The May Melee. Jake, it's finally time.
The Shanghai Dragons have done it. I cannot believe what we have witnessed. The reverse sweep.
That's all it's going to take for San Francisco. They are your victors here on the Overwatch League May Melee.
DM and Lee J gone against the world, but they cannot get there. The Guangzhou Charge have done it. They will take the grand final, shutting down the Shanghai Dragons.
The Paris Eternal shutting down the Fusion. They denied them of their crown. The Paris Eternal take the series.
The clock has struck midnight on the Countdown Cup, and the Shock are victorious.
Shanghai Dragons assert themselves as the best team in the APAC region, potentially the best in the world.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
All right, we are back for the rest of this series between the London Spitfire and the Seoul Dynasty, tied up 1-1 after the halftime. Route 66, another strong performance from London on that map, but now we have to see how they fare moving further into this set.
Well, we are going to Numbani for our next map. I think this is a map that really plays into London Spitfire's strengths, especially in terms of A. They have long sight lines, not quite as open as Route 66, but still long sight lines where you can have Glister control the approach. You also have the ability for JMac to play aggressively, either in the choke on the high ground on the right side from defender's perspective, or just leaping up high on low ground, in the center. And those are the two things I feel like London has been excelling at really well. You get past A, where Sombra EMPs and the ult efficiency become really make or break for capturing B and getting around that corner on C. That's when it's going to be a little bit harder. So I think London Spitfire need to have another solid defense on A, and I think they will. I think there's a real chance that if they have a good defense on A, they could turn the series around on Numbani. I think it's a map that really does, at the beginning of things, play into their strengths very well. And they're probably going to choose to defend first.
Coming out of the half, this is beginning to feel like a series that very well could go to 5 maps, as it might as well. We only have 1 match today, so why not? You don't need sleep, right, Wolf? It's only 4:53 in the morning over there on the East Coast. So let's just settle in for a long one.
It's been an experience for me. I know you've done this multiple times before, and you were doing it at the beginning of the season once COVID first hit, because you were in Jersey, so this was like the norm for you. It's hard for me to stay up in LA, but now I'm experiencing the East Coast of things. It is going to be London defending first here on Numbani, and I think that this is, this is the crux of the map for them, is this A defense. Not that they can't win it if they lose A, it's not like that's the end of the story, but I feel like this is the part of the map that plays into their strengths the best. For Seoul Dynasty, an early cap on this makes you feel pretty amazing, heading into B and C. So this first push is really important. Babel going to gain some information here right off the bat, making sure there's no Reaper comp or anything like that coming through. Seoul Dynasty is not really the type to run it. Translocates away. Easy peasy.
Shot's just going to start flying as Glister looks to chip away at them. Profit for now, going through the low ground. Looks to spy check on that ramp. They will hear that shot come through, translocates away. Does Babel, so they know exactly where he's going to be positioning and approaching from. Going to be the dive onto the high ground. They leap up. JMac looking to cut off the team, but Fitz does manage to find Glister. Sanguinar, can he get a res is going to be the question. Falls low, starts getting top back up, and JMac, after getting bionated, will be taken down. Sanguinar will give his life for the res, as Glister instantly starts taking damage on the revive, and a cap will just come through very quickly here for the Seoul Dynasty. Really nice attack from them, just kind of segmenting London Spitfire, and the split from London just didn't get nearly as much done.
Yeah, it was really careful, the approach we saw from Seoul Dynasty. Very, very slow. I liked Prophet going through the middle there. Forces Babel to translocate, and he has to translocate there, or he feels he has to. Does he have to? No, but he's nervous that Prophet's just going to take him out with a headshot. He's going to get blown up instantly from some focus fire, and then he dies, so he has to back off, and that gave the tank line more space. Just slowly push onto the point. London Spitfire kind of just pushed away in an almost deathless fight there. This is a great start for Seoul Dynasty. Ult economy even across the board here, but we know Seoul has been better at ult economy throughout this entire series, so definitely their advantage at the moment.
Yeah, looking for that leap in on the Babel. They force him out of that position, away from that health pack. JMac plays up around the corner. Nano boost on him just to ensure his survival for the moment. Same could be said for Jester, who's got that Primal Rage rolling in the back line, just kind of displacing as many people as he possibly can. The Bob's going to be tossed out. Jester unable to get any knocks off the side of the map here. We will see a hack from Fitz to go ahead and disable the Bob. Part right here on the corner of the bus. It's going to be a really dangerous spot for things to get locked up. Soul looking like they might be able to push through and at least get close to the end. 4-man EMP is going to hit. Fitz cannot respond in kind with one of his own. Glister finds that first kill, and That one might be enough. Go ahead and allow for the London Spitfire to gain control of this cart. Primal Rage now going to get popped for JMac, just knocking the Bob away. Jester has the leap, gets himself back onto the ledge safely. Has to retreat indoors to try and stay alive as Tuyu will manage to get rid of the enemy Winston. So the cart can continue to advance now for Seoul Dynasty. So despite the really good EMP from Babel, this might yet just get turned around. Self-destruct from Tuyu finds Glister, Klest, and Hack's going to be knocked out of the mech. The res is there, so they're still without a tank, and the self-destruct is not going to be able to find anything as Jester was saving his bubble, flops that down, and ensures that everybody can stay safe. So Cart now pushing forward towards point B, still with 3.5 minutes in the time bank for Seoul Dynasty, so this could be close to 5 minutes for them. EMP comes out solo on the JMac as he gets that nano boost, but with the Bionade layered in on top, there's no way that he can survive. So 450 is here for Seoul Dynasty as they get ready to go on this final stretch.
Yep, and Seoul Dynasty here with the control of the corner, which is actually really huge. Normally when you take this, it's a fight that is lost before B, and then London can regroup and try to control this corner, but Seoul Dynasty is already aggressively positioned. I mean, look at the right side of your screen. Our Prophet is sneaking around the corner. Glister needs to make sure he controls that line of sight, which he is doing now, but the cart is free rolling right now. This could be an insane time bank for Seoul Dynasty.
And you can see everybody from London is just trying to pay attention to where Prophet is, that JMac goes forward, and he's got no support to try and back him up to keep him alive, so he can't get a Primal Rage online. He just basically ints into his own death on that card. Jester, in the meantime, was able to build up a Primal, playing a bit more defensively here with the rest of his team. Causes a bit of disruption, and the cart makes its way around the final corner. Anubis going to be tossed out. Jester receives that as he is bionaded and EMP'd. He's trying to stay alive. He's trying to retreat quickly enough, and he's able to do so. And JMac is dead yet again. Bob just chips away at him. Kleston going to be knocked out of the mech by that in the pursuit forward from Jester. And the London Spitfire just falling apart on this defense. Cannot get any ground to stand on.
Yeah, Seoul not even on the point there because they were just chasing down and getting so many kills. I think the cart probably could have rolled through. It is going to roll through now. EMP and the knockback there onto Kleston means that he can't delay it any further. 324 is the time bank here. And I think this goes back to what I was saying. If you have a really solid defense on A as London, that's really what you need to stop Seoul here and to turn Numbani into your favor. Seoul had a really careful attack, and they were able to force Babel to translocate away. They won the tank war. London Spitfire to retreat. They just gave up A. And from that moment on, there was never a moment where London really had control of any part of that defense. And now they're going to have to fight into Seoul Dynasty, where Glister isn't going to have sightline control by default. Babel is going to have to play aggressive. He's going to have to play the sneak game. He's going to have to build fast EMPs. To expect London Spitfire to have an equivalent time bank just based on their play style is... I mean, it would be ridiculous to make that claim. I think London could match this time bank. I don't think it's going to happen. So they're going to have to do the best they can here, and maybe, just maybe, they'll get that miracle first take. If they get that, I mean, anything is possible, I guess. But Seoul Dynasty must be feeling amazing right now, especially after that tough Route 66 game where the momentum was wrestled away from them. This is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, and that's what this really felt like for London, was the momentum just completely working against them. Weren't expecting such an aggressive and segmenting start to their defense, got split in half, and then just could not really collect themselves to stabilize whatsoever after point A went the way of Seoul Dynasty. So now we have to see how they're going to fare on this attack. One pick off from Glister could be enough to put them forward onto this point and get the part rolling. See what kind of
how hard
he
it
can
is.
grab for himself.
Yeah, it's hard for him to get those sight lines, but one mistake from Prophet could change everything. Just looking for his opportunity, but he's taken out.
Yeah, Rez will be there, but you can see the rest of Seoul Dynasty pressing forward. Glister, however, on the return does manage to find Prophet, but Toby gets the instant Rez. His coach gun will push Jester back around the corner, allowing for London to stabilize a bit. Hack onto JMac again, but is in a safe enough position to not be taken down. Jester joins up onto the high ground. JMac going to be trading places with him, retreats alongside Kleston. Go ahead and try and stay alive here, and Glister has to surrender that high ground.
Yeah, this is looking worse and worse for London time bank wise, but they're not out of this yet. The problem is Seoul Dynasty is going to have that faster EMP. They have a nano boost, but there's no way JMac can get the primal during the nano. But I think they still have to commit it here. I mean, it's their only tool. And they have to hope for the best. Ooh, sleep misses.
Does not connect. They keep JMac alive. He's going to start pushing forward. Gets denied that leap by the coach gun. He's looking for a kill onto Toby. But you can see just kind of shifting around, doesn't know which way to look. There's too many targets, too many people pressing in towards him, so has to just go ahead and back out the safety. Jester goes around to the other side to protect that high ground. Dynamite comes in, does get a clip onto Toby, but there's no follow-up shots to finish him off, so he again safely reses Prophet back into the fight. So the sightline issues continue here for the London Spitfire as Glister tries to push up around the corner.
He's got to hate Toby right now, shutting him down. Fitz waiting for this EMP.
Occupies. Starts ticking up here for London. They might be able to grab a tick off of this as Seoul Dynasty tries to get recuperated. Hack goes in, finds Krillin in the back line. Babel under fire as well, will be kept alive, and they cannot get the punish onto the Ana. London grab a single tick thus far, but now need to try to make their way onto the point again. JMac snapping away, gets his primal online, will be matching as Prophet finds another kill onto Glister. Now the hack comes in, and JMac, without the leap, he can't really get a corner on Prophet. He's allowed to exit, as is Vince. They cannot lock them down.
There's just no follow-up damage, unfortunately. Babel's EMP not really getting a whole lot done. I mean, not getting anything done.
EMP comes
I don't even know if he has
Fitz.
Translocator here. He's dead.
It does manage to find two. Cluster with a bomb, won't get anything. JMac and Babel both going to be eliminated now. 2U stays in the mech, and they will just protect Gesture as he takes his nice little nap. Things continue to look very good for the Seoul Dynasty on this defense. London Spitfire used pretty much everything that they had on that fight, whereas Seoul is going to be sitting on 3 ultimates pretty soon.
Yeah, the nano boost in particular is going to make it so they can kind of live through anything here, as long as Badoshan doesn't get picked. And Babel, if he played like Fitz, would be looking for that backline hack onto Badoshan right now, would be looking for a kill. Looks like he wants to go for the pick onto 2U instead here. It's the safer choice. Shut down that DMAC if they can get the kill.
Okay, they DMAC'd him before the hack expires, so he cannot just go ahead and pop that self-destruct to try to get his way back in. So certainly an opportunity now as Glister finds another headshot, lining one up, now looking to get rid of Gesture on his exit. Point is going to be unoccupied. London make their way over to this with 20 seconds remaining in the time bank. Glister for now, just waiting. Throws up the dynamite to try to cut them off. Babel barely survives. The Bobs come through. A lockdown on the one there on the point. This is Bob finishing off Profits. Krillin going to be gone, but Baby Diva finished off as he tries to throw out that Hail Mary self-destruct. The point will be capped by the London Spitfire. The second lease on life for them as they go for the cleanup here onto the members of the Seoul Dynasty. There's a really long way to go with not much time. And remember, they need to finish with time in the bank.
Exactly. Seoul Dynasty really happy to look for that retake. They failed, even though they got a few kills there, some stagger kills. Because they know, look, we have 324. You guys need to finish with time in the bank. And, you know, with the time bank you have right now, you might not finish at all, is the mindset of Seoul Dynasty. They really only commit the self-destruct there to try to set up for it. Doesn't work out. They hold the rest of their ultimates. I'll see if Babel can find that window here for an EMP. I like that we track his perspective because he's been so shy to use these when London Spitfire needs them most critically. So we'll have to see what he's thinking, at least what he's looking at, what angle he's trying to find. Fitz has just been so much more consistent here.
Yeah, very sad nano boost there onto the Winston as JMac was unable to get much done. EMP from Babel, however, is quite good. Sets up for the self-destruct kill onto Gesture, and they find Fitz moments before that. So, nice pull of the trigger from him. And London Spitfire in position to capitalize. Bionade connects on the 2U, and Badoshan both going to be in danger, but it will be Prophet and Toby the ones to fall as the cart makes very good time for London Spitfire. 2:42, so obviously starting with significantly less. It's going to be well more than a minute advantage for Seoul Dynasty, but they still have a chance now.
It's all things considered, it's incredible for London Spitfire. I mean, they really do have a chance to get that time in the bank if they can win every single fight going forward here. And that's a lot going to rely, or a lot of that's going to rely on Glister actually getting picks here and being the one to control sightlines. Look at how far forward he's playing as well. I mean, on the cart himself as the sniper here on Ash, because he knows that he's the one who has to make that happen. Bob, unfortunately, gets completely shut down.
Yeah, but Krillin does find Prophet. Lobbed in the Bionade, got the snipe on him as well. Bubble will be protecting JMac for the moment while he plays forward, so they cannot get that hack off on him. Bionade lobbed in. Toby does get the res onto Bedosian, but he's got to play back into the spawn room now, so cannot continue to play forward. Anubis comes in onto 2U. He'll be stopping the cart for the moment as there's a minute and 45 seconds remaining here for the London Spitfire. Lesson trying to stabilize, trying to get top back up by his supports. You can see London taking their time with this one here. Playing this one out as slowly as they can possibly allow. Sleep Dart comes in before Cleston gets eliminated. Profit and Toby going to be gone. No res is available now for the side of the Seoul Dynasty. Self-destruct is out from 2U. Goes it into the back, looks for a pick, unable to find one, but it might not matter because JMac and Sanguinar now Babel have all fallen. A break onto Cleston's mech means that there has to be a reset, and the London Spitfire will have to finish this one after a reset with less than a minute remaining.
London Spitfire in serious trouble now, but they have all the ults in the world. The problem is, you know, all the ults in the world, I mean, okay, except self-destruct, which obviously was used previously. These 5 ultimates may finish the map for them, but will it finish before overtime? I don't think so. Seoul Dynasty should be able to buy a ton of time here. They're going to have their own nano boost. They could just stall this out. And London Spitfire aren't even ready to engage right now when there's only 45 seconds left, so finishing the map with time in the bank is so unlikely right now. They could still play for a draw, but this is looking very, very difficult right now. Profit takes out Glister as well.
Yeah, that's a terrible start for them, and Krillin dies immediately after the res comes through, so now are without one of their supports. Have to wait for Krillin to try to run back. He does have that nano boost, which can be absolutely crucial for them. Glister's going to be tossing out the bomb, lands here on the cart, starts inching it back forward towards the box of victory. 16 seconds remaining, and like you said, it seems very unlikely that there's going to be any time left for the side of the London Spitfire on this finish. Glister bionated now. Slowly get topped back up. Cleston is hacking, is just trying not to become an ult battery. JMac falling lower and lower, gets the nano boost to push a little bit of HP back onto him. The EMP comes through, manages the flying 3. 2U going to be knocked out of the mech, down the bomb, going to be tossed in by Profit. EMP out, catches 3 on the side of the London Spitfire. The self-destruct from Cleston finds Fitz, but it's still Seoul Dynasty who are trading up, who have the faster runbacks, so it still seems like pretty much assured victory for Seoul. Tanks, however, still playing around the cart, are trying to get this one rolled in. Sleep Dart will disrupt JMac. He leaps up into the air and is dead on the way back down. Cleston desperately tries to buy some time for the rest of the team to re-arrive. Gets knocked out of the mech, gets melted down. The OT bar will plummet, so despite their best efforts, despite a very nice stretch from A to B, London Spitfire cannot complete. Numbani cannot force us into extra innings, and the Seoul Dynasty will be moving up to match point.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to feel for London Spitfire because they had some really good moments there. Babel had that one really nice EMP. Glister was getting kills on Profit. They were trading back and forth, to be fair. Yeah. But, I mean, he was winning some of those trades on A versus Profit when he didn't have sightline advantage. He was just outplaying Profit, but Toby was always there for the res. Likewise, Glister got rezzed several times by Sanguinar as well, but you could see London Spitfire really playing to their strengths. They're really trying to find these windows, trying to find these opportunities to push the boundaries of what's possible. I mean, really against a team that's so much more well-versed at high-level Overwatch. I mean, obviously just so much more experience. I know it's not like a broken record like about London Spitfire for that all season long, but next season we won't be able to say that about these same players, right? But for this first season against legends on the other side, I mean, yeah, we have to say that, you know, that for the situation and for their current performances that we've been seeing the last few weeks, this is still okay for them, but it is worrying for playoffs. If you're a London Spitfire fan hoping for that miracle run, try not to get too discouraged by this, but yeah, it's a tough road.
It is, but it might not be over yet. I mean, Seoul looking a bit more in control here. It was a really strong push from them, and then a really close defense at the end for them to get that victory on Numbani. But London Spitfire have shown that they are able to fight back, so we're going to have to see how they fare on Assault when we come back from the break. See if they can force us to a 5th and final map. They failed to do so yesterday versus NYXL. Can they do it today versus Seoul Dynasty? We'll see in just a few.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
All right, and we are back, and it's time to see if London can force us to a 5th and final map. This is going to be a bit of a difficult one here after their loss on Numbani. So close to finishing the map, to even being able to try and force a draw, but unfortunately they can't make it that far.
Yeah, it's going to be Temple of Anubis as our next map, and you know, I feel like
Yes.
I don't know. I usually have like an angle on these last matches of regular season. Like I've cast a lot of them. You and I cast them in Contenders for 3 seasons when we had that round robin format. You know, I've cast StarCraft Pro League. There's almost always a big takeaway in these last matches, but and this one's a little bit weird and unique because usually when you have this match that doesn't matter for playoffs, but with a team like London, it's like, well, you kind of play them off like, see you next season. But that's not actually what's happening. They're going to play playoffs. Like, this is not the end of the road. But I feel like the more and more we talk about, like, well, what should they do for playoffs? It just feels like we're criticizing them too much. But I do want to say there's hope. On Temple of Anubis, it's a map where, again, you have the ability to run Ashe and play it at a high level at range on A on the defense. Like, I feel like that's where they make their stand. Again, just like on Numbani, that it didn't work on Numbani, and then they got crushed in the ensuing follow-up on Street Phase. But I'm just trying to give some hope to the London fans right now in a series that's otherwise almost locked up. I mean, there was a great map of Route 66. It really was. Another full hold for them.
Yeah.
But the other 2 maps have been otherwise extremely one-sided, and I'm hoping for the best. I hope Glister could find those pop-off moments.
I mean, look, if they could play a 1st to 4 versus Shanghai Dragons and have every map be Route 66, they might be able to win. They could become the champions. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and they need to improve their consistency on the other map types. I think one of the big things is avoid, this is going to sound so forehead logic, but just try to get picked off less. I feel like there's some great punishment that's been coming in from the Seoul Dynasty where they find one, the res comes in, and then somebody else instantly dies. And when that happens, when you're the Mercy, you kind of feel like you just took your this is going to be a weird analogy, but it's like you just took your dog outside, try to get it to go to the bathroom, and it doesn't, and then you bring it back indoors, and it immediately pees on the floor. And you're just like, well, like,
yeah.
I just did this one thing, and then now there's this problem. Like, I just rezzed the Ashe, but now the Ana's dead. Like, crap. What do I do?
Well, it's like you plug one leak, but then another one springs up, And
yeah.
And while you're rezzing, you're not healing. You're stuck in that res animation. You're vulnerable, so you have to do it very carefully. But then you might lose your tank or one of your DPSs who needs healing desperately. Whoever Soul's calling out, it's a tough job to play Mercy right now, especially when an Ashe can instantly kill someone and you've got to rush over there. Defense here for London Spitfire first. We talked about this is where they're probably going to find their most success. They do find Fitz. That's a nice start.
Yeah, and they also get a pick off here on the Prophet. So this is the follow-up. This is where London needs to get another kill right here, because then Toby will be like, oh, man. The dog peed on the floor. That doesn't happen. So he just brings it back into the fight. I'm going to stop using this.
Keeps on giving.
Yeah. And I'm sure the people are going to just be asking for me to stop. But a decent start to you going to be demeched by the Dynamite. And finished off, Babel able to scoop the kill, and that gives him a nice little lead towards the EMP. Not a substantial one. Fitz could very much close that gap as another res does come through, so 2U will be able to get back into the mech, but this is still time bought here for the London Spitfire. And Time and Soul is, they want to slow down the play because they don't have that res available.
Yeah, I want to see Babel's EMP. He's got this tiny window of time to use it here. He needs to be bold with it. Nano's out. It's up to him now. He's that last 3%. It's too slow. Fitz gets it first.
Yeah, they just go for the solo EMP on the JMac. Just want to go ahead and finish him off. 3-man EMP does come out for Babel, but Prophet gets the headshot onto Glister, and the follow-up is just not there. So Babel becoming bolder, finding higher impact EMPs as far as like how many people he's catching with them, but the follow-up is just not ready for London. With having JMac out of the fight. Now with Krillin going down and Kless and DMac on the high ground, as well as Babel taking a nap somewhere off the screen. This is just going to be Seoul Dynasty locking down point A, pushing up a little bit of extra time here into the time bank as they get ready to go towards point B.
There's the hack onto J-Mac as he tries to tag through. You've got to, in those moments, if you're Babel, you know, when J-Mac is slept while nanoed, you've got to get that last 3%. You can't just sit and wait. You know, you've got to find someone and shoot them. You've got to take that risk. You've got to EMP because it's up to you in that moment. Maybe you could save J-Mac. Maybe you can actually turn the fight. Maybe just wait and wait and wait until your teammates are dead, and then you EMP afterwards. You know, you've done neither of the crucial things you could have done. You could have saved EMP for B. Now he doesn't have it. I mean, nor does Fitz, but could be a tool they could have used in the archway just now.
A good force on
for sightlines.
Yeah, it's a good force on the self-destruct. That could prove crucial here for London Spitfire on this defense too. You're just kind of getting caught out. Was trying to kill off J-Mac while they had a hack on him on the high ground, but instead the focus fire comes in and London does manage to break that mech. Anubis is here onto J-Mac, but you can see him showing some restraint. He doesn't want to move out towards the initial archway, with worry that he'll just get hacked and focus fired again by Seoul Dynasty. So plays that one out a little bit more cautiously. 12 for him. Primal Rage now coming through. Babel finds Fitz, taking him down, and this can allow for Babel to catch up in that EMP charge. Just 18% behind him here for the moment. I think he's not going to be able to find too much as Seoul Dynasty pulls very well back away from the archway.
Seoul using their support ultimates there, so that's going to give London Spitfire a little bit more, you feel a little bit safer against the dive coming through from Gesture on this next push. If you get a right-click hack onto him, then you know he's as good as dead if he does commit in very far. You can see how carefully he has to play now. He does trade out J-Mac, though.
Yep, Bob for Bob. Duking it out on the bridge. Kleston, way off on the side, has to use that self-destruct just to try to get back in, and seems like he will be allowed to remake safely. They're not going to find that further punishment, but, I mean, with all the ults being thrown around, J-Mac getting picked off again, Seoul Dynasty haven't really been able to step foot on this point. They have nothing built up, and the time is still draining away. 240 is still more than enough time to complete this map, but it does exacerbate things the more attempts get shut down.
Yeah, Babel has this EMP. We're tracking him right now because he's the one who, in theory, should use it either in this choke with a dive coming through or as Seoul Dynasty tries to approach the point. It's going to be a lot harder, obviously, for Fitz to get a high-value EMP on the engage, so Babel should have that advantage. Right now, Prophet is really far forward. He should not be allowed to be this far forward. Okay, he is now pushed back by an angry J-Mac, but for a second there, it was a little bit puzzling. There's the EMP.
Finally to stop him. J-Mac has to get the nano boost to stay alive. Again, Focus Fire looking pretty good for the side of the Seoul Dynasty, but they do not get that punish that they would so desperately love to have. Bomb to the back will not find any pickoffs. It zones away some of the members from the London Spitfire, but Seoul Dynasty still have not yet really made their way onto this point to start contesting, so London can just go ahead and regroup with little to no issue. Pocket healing comes in onto Bedosian, but there's just too many people from London piling in on top of this Ana, so they manage to finish him off. Leston goes to exit, does get hacked, can't D-Matrix himself to stay safe. He'll just have to try to pistol his way back in. Second tick gets ready to come in now suddenly here for the Seoul Dynasty. They're building up nicely on the point. London Spitfire don't have too many ultimates to try and defend with, but Seoul Dynasty are also running light in that department. Kleston crucially going to be denied the remake. Great headshot comes in for Prophet, but the healing's going to be cut in half now for Seoul as Bedosian does fall. A follow-up kill from Glister as he really starts to get into the groove of things, takes down Fitz.
Just point me in the right
All right, right now for London Spitfire, they've really got an opportunity to just get a win condition here, right? They can have B be their win condition to bring us to a 5th map. They've got all the tools to do so. They've got Nano Boost, they've got a Primal Rage. You be careful, they can't let anyone get picked. They need to play around silence. Glister gets rezzed.
Really aggressive there from Kleston. Does get punished, but they find Prophet again. Rez will come through, but Kleston's going to be back into the fight at the same time.
London should be fine here as long as they wait.
Okay. Bob out on the point, matched by Bob again. They'll go ahead, dip out of line of sight, change aggro for the Bob targets, so they'll just start chipping away at each other. You see that Glisters is going to be the superior Bob at the end of the day, comes up with the kill. J-Mac going to be taken down as the EMP strikes onto the tank line of the London Spitfire, and Sanguinar does get finished off. 2U going to be taking a nap for the moment. Still holds on to that self-destruct. Kleston finds one. J-Mac swaps over now onto the Wrecking Ball, and the EMP from Babel is absolutely massive. Catches the 4 remaining members of the Seoul Dynasty who are still playing up towards the point. However, EMP will expire, not going to be hacked any longer. Should try to get to you here, but they cannot do so before he throws out that self-destruct. They'll duck around the corner. They get the deny on the remake. Glister follows up for a second headshot, takes down Toby, and the OT will bleed away. Again, London Spitfire set themselves up for success. There is a win condition on the board for them to force a 5th and final round if they can just beat that 60.3% established by the Seoul Dynasty.
I think they absolutely can do it. This is really, that was a solid defense. You know, unfortunately for Babel, he had his EMP very late, but it was a great EMP when it did come out, and he saved the day there. Seoul Dynasty, you know, in a situation where they couldn't really avoid it or retreat because they were out of time, and so naturally that EMP is going to find big value. Cleston is in a position where he can re-mech because he's safely pistoling his way back in. There's no one who can pressure him besides Tuyu. Can't go any further forward or he will end up being demeched himself. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation for Dynasty after that EMP went off. On the defense here, it's going to be the same heroes across the board, you know, no changes. And Glister, you know, if he can take out Prophet a few times, you know, oftentimes as he kills Prophet, then Toby reses him, the Prophet kills him, then Sanguinar reses. If he can kill Prophet and then kill Sanguinar, or someone else could pressure Sanguinar, prevent those reses, or rather kill Toby, excuse me, and prevent those reses, you know, maybe that's the start here for London Spitfire. Babel, again, proving that he has it in him to have those good EMPs, but easier said than done. They're looking for Fitz. They do see him. He's been hiding here at every single spawn every time.
Looking for me? Much better.
Flying up, waiting for them to approach. Shifting around with trying to figure out what health pack he wants to have hacked. Babel will start poking out from this side. Wants to go cloak in, but Dynamite will go ahead and drag him right out of that one.
Here I am. Translocating.
Now pressing forward, instantly forced back. Glister gets a shot on the Prophet. Res virtually there from Toby. Doesn't get punished for it. Good protection being shown here for the Seoul Dynasty on Toby. This Fitz almost gets taken down.
Fitz is looking for that J-Mac hack. J-Mac was just out of range. That was actually a really scary
little bit
moment.
closer. Yeah, couldn't quite get him. Slow going here, but Babel keeping decent pace alongside Fitz for the EMP, but that can certainly slow things up. Esther going to fall. Glister is rezzed back in, but now Cleston loses out on the mech, so we'll have to try to pistol his way back through. Shots come in to keep Sanguinar topped up, and Toby gets enough space to bring Gesture back into the fold.
Cleston is like the remake god, man. He's always getting back in.
He's trying to,
so
desperately. They're chasing for him, but they got the pocket healing. Glister finds another shot, and I think the res is still down at the moment for Toby, so Fitz out of the fight for now. Just 5% away from that EMP. Babel will be able to get his online now. Bob toss out first here on the point. Prophet throws his in as well. Start will just get woken up by the other Bob. EMP used solo onto Gesture, and that might be good enough here as J-Mac goes in with the Primal Rage. Gets with a Prophet. It seems like that should be point A here for the London Spitfire. So similar starting time bank. And as I say that, Toby finds a res as a Bionade onto both tanks. We'll be able to stay alive and outlast that. They get the second tick. Self-destruct going to be used by Tuyu, which is
trying to delay
here. That could be one of the big defensive tools for them. EMP as well going to be used by Fitz. Managed to find Babel. Did clip onto Cleston. They knock him out of the mech. But can they win this fight off?
What a heroic defense.
Question. They do manage to find Cleston. The res comes in from Sanguinar. He'll be able to get back into the mech rather swiftly, and Babel's going to be sprinting back over from the spawn. The fight has been taken off the point here, so London Spitfire are not gaining any percentage. Bomb going to be thrown in, looks for a pick. Toby ducks around the corner, will get chased down by J-Mac. They finish him off. Back over to the point now are the London Spitfires. The Seoul Dynasty will just start getting picked off one after the other, and the cap will come in. So they delay for a little bit longer. They also have to use a lot of tools just to drain the clock down a bit. There's 4 minutes remaining here for the London Spitfire. They can absolutely go for some eco pushes.
Seoul Dynasty almost pulling it off. I mean, I could respect the risk take there when you have that 5th map to fall back on. You know, I don't think they make those same decisions if they're the ones 1 and 2. I think they just step off, of the point, go back to B, try to hold that ult advantage. They took the risk. It does not pay off. It was close. I mean, it really was. But it doesn't pay off here. London Spitfire, all they need is one good team fight here. And this might be the start of it.
I mean, Ocean's already gone. J-Mac now pops the Primal, has that Nano Boost rolling. Both supports are going to be eliminated as the rest of London are playing around the point, and Prophet is way out in no man's land. Even if Toby was alive to try to res him, he wouldn't be able to get into that position. Point starts getting capped, the first tick starts to come through, and it's just shy of 12% now that London didn't need to go ahead and cap this. They get the break on 2U's Mech, looks to push him off the side. Tries to get the lineup there onto Fitz, but it's going to be the melee hit coming through from J-Mac that does the deed. A little bit more to clear this point off. The bomb will be the thing delaying. They'll go ahead, hack him out, focus fire him down. 2U tries to get there in time, cannot. And here we go. This one is going the distance. London Spitfire with their victory on Temple of Anubis will be pushing us into a 5th and final map in this series.
Really well played by London Spitfire on their A attack, and despite Seoul Dynasty's heroics there, they end up losing out the crucial ultimates they needed to defend that first B push. And J-Mac goes in and gets 2 kills off the Primal. Well, first one without it, and then gets the second one there. And that's all you need, really, when you're even on ultimates like that. And all you need is basically 2 ticks to win the map. So London Spitfire really bouncing back in this series. It's actually been quite enjoyable to watch, the back-and-forth nature of this. And London Spitfire is finding so much success on defense. Maybe if they can get these first caps on our final map of Control, maybe the defense will be the name of the game to turn this into a victory for them.
I mean, it could be, but one of the most damning things for Spitfire going into this next map is, I mean, think about their win record as of late on Control. That map loss streak, no rounds of Control picked up. The first map that they were able to win was just yesterday, Route 66, to break that loss streak. So they haven't won a round of Control in a very long time. I think we can anticipate that we're going to see Marvel, in all likelihood, come back in. I didn't quite catch what the final map is going to be, but that could be a little bit of a tell. But we might have Marvel rejoining in with the roster to continue to find that success that they've had on their Control maps, being told that it is Oasis. So, I mean, this could play to either side. Honestly, I think you might want to keep Jester in for the Winston.
It's a tough call. I feel like Marvel played a pretty good Winston when it was him earlier, but
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait. We don't have to speculate anymore, but I think that both are viable in this case.
Well, we'll see what they land on when we come back from the break. Map 5 in our last match of the regular season coming up, and I wouldn't want to do this any other way. Might as well go the distance to go ahead and close things out before playoffs. So stay tuned, guys. Map 5 is coming up in just a few minutes.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
And we are back. It is time to see who will be victorious here at the end of the regular season. Seoul Dynasty versus London Spitfire now being forced to a map 5. London looking pretty damn good there on Temple of Anubis, now forces into a final map of Oasis.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting closer to what has been a very back and forth, I mean, quite literally, series here between these two. And, you know, it's hard to say how this is going to end. I mean, we obviously saw Seoul Dynasty have a pretty dominant start on Control, but, I mean, things have changed quite a lot. And even though they had, a rough time on Route 66, they pulled it back again and then on Numbani, and then we saw a tough loss for them on Anubis. So very much back and forth, very much ups and downs for Seoul Dynasty. I feel like London Spitfire's strengths are definitely Glister and the tank line. For Seoul Dynasty on the other side, it's the DPS line across the board. You know, both Prophet and Fitz are playing really well tonight. I mean, normally it's like, wow, Glister is killing it. He's the guy to focus on for London Spitfire. But Prophet is beating him sometimes too. It's actually very back and forth even in that regard. So when you're playing a meta where EMP can win you a team fight, you know, it's important that both Sombras play well. Seoul Dynasty is winning out in that regard, but you've also got Ashes on both sides, and one shot can kill. So, you know, that makes this matchup, or rather this meta, very high variance across the board. So anything can happen here, and I think London could do it. Like, they could actually win this series. It would be an unbelievable way to end their regular season.
Yeah, I mean, after going from such a crazy map loss streak, the largest in their franchise history, to, you know, picking up one map yesterday, to now being in this Game 5 scenario, there certainly is an opportunity for them to go ahead and tackle on a nice little win at the end of the regular season, and then fully focus in and get ready for the playoffs to try to make a deep run, to try to replicate some of the success that we saw from them, you know, kind of what feels like the middle of 2020, when they had, you know, first gotten back into Korea. There was a little bit of a lopside for them. They weren't performing that well, but then they started rising. And if they can get back into that kind of groove, put on those kinds of performances, then it could look very good for them. That was very much on the back of Glister. The rest of the team was playing at a similar level as him. So if they can get everybody on that same page, then London absolutely could have a pretty good postseason. But it all comes down for right now to this Game 5. That is going to be their primary focus. They're not going to be thinking about playoffs. They're going to be thinking about going out on a high note, ending this regular season as best as humanly possible, and not allowing for the Seoul Dynasty to beat them 3 times in a row.
Yeah, I'm guessing the players are still getting ready here. Okay, now it looks like we're starting to get into things. Oasis is the 5th and final map. We mentioned it earlier. It's a map that plays, for the most part, similar to Ilios. You don't see a lot of variation on this map. It's not like Busan, where on Mecha Base you can see a little bit of Mei, Lijiang Tower Control, Lijiang Tower Control Center. Is it Center or Tower? I always mix those up.
Center.
Center, okay. Control Center, where you can see some Mei, you know, some Reaper come through. This one, I think we're probably just going to see the Ashe Sombra the whole time on both sides. My guess. Lucio's here for speed boost. J-Mac
not great
teases the Wrecking Ball.
I'm gonna stick with this.
The Reaper is, I mean, I think it's quite strong here, but very surprising. Perhaps Seoul Dynasty making a statement after what happened yesterday. We can do this too, and they are going to keep it.
Okay.
Try to catch London off guard.
Yeah, just going for this anti-dive right off the bat after getting, devastated by this at the hands of Adora and the Hangzhou Spark just yesterday. And not that the Reaper has much to do with it, but they already start off very nicely, getting rid of both of these supports. Prophet just running forward, finally gets a couple meaningful shots in as they clean up Kleston, and Seoul Dynasty will be able to grab this first cap. Question now becomes, for the London Spitfire on this reapproach, do we see a shift? Glister for now still holding on to this Ashe, so not seeing a McCree come out yet.
This is kind of a weird map to play Reaper on too. The map is so open, there's so many sightlines. Glister has so many ways to chip away at Prophet and push him back, make it difficult for him to actually approach. Even when he has control of the point, there's angles Glister could take and use the jump pad. He can actually use his coach gun to get to different areas. So Prophet's going to have a hard time actually until London gets to the point to do damage. As you can see here, he's kind of having to stay behind this pillar because he knows his head's going to get taken off if he exposes it for just a second.
They're gonna hack onto 2U, but can't really move up into a position to really punish that. Glister, however, does find a nice headshot to get rid of Fitz, and Babel already with a fairly comfortable lead, and now have a more significant one. Prophet TP's around the back side, but perfectly aware of this. Finds the translocator, but can't really get in on top of too many people. 2U does, however, find Babel, which does give a bit of a window of opportunity now for Fitz to try to catch back up. Dive in, deep chase comes through for the Seoul Dynasty, just taking the fight away from the point to get the DMAC away from Kleston, so the damage mitigation is gone. The Seoul Dynasty can just go ahead, comfortably rotate back and forth over towards the spawn of London Spitfire, back to the point when they're not engaging.
Yep, Glister gonna have that Bob online now. Does get hacked, can't use it, it's taken out. This is looking great for Seoul Dynasty. The EMP here hits 5, but where is the follow-up?
Yeah, they just don't have it. Glister immediately eliminated off the bat. Everybody just trying to focus on stabilizing after he is gone, so they can't get anything on the back end of the EMP. JMac, however, does manage to find 2. So the HP bar is not high enough. Kobe goes in for a really deep dive to drop that beat, and Prophet with the Death Blossom actually does something. Comes up with multiple kills, gets the knockout onto Kleston's mech as well. That is the team wipe. And with 4% left to go, London Spitfire. Sanguinar desperately swaps over onto the Lucio, but he cannot make it there in time. And it's a statement victory here from the Seoul Dynasty. A great read with that Reaper pickup. They close out the first round 100% to 0.
Everyone's super casual as well on the Seoul Dynasty side. Gesture is shouting out orders. You could see that the atmosphere on the Seoul Dynasty is tense. Everyone's communicating. On the side of London Spitfire, you can see it's only Sanguinar who's talking. Now let's watch this moment again here. You can see that the sound barrier comes out for Toby. He calls it here. And as London Spitfire spill onto the point, Prophet gets a kill, a DMAC, gets a 3rd kill onto Sanguinar. And I think he actually ended up with, if you count the DMAC as a kill, because yeah, he didn't kill the Baby Diva, I think he ended up getting 5 in total there. But he has the extra sound barrier on top of the fact that London has to spill into that choke point to contest the point. Worst possible scenario for London Spitfire, Seoul Dynasty. Setting it up, Toby makes the call, I'm on a sound barrier. And 100 to 0 is how it starts.
A really strong start for them, but opting away from the Reaper here. They want to have those longer sight lines with the Ashe, try to find picks that way, which Prophet does just that. So still looking pretty fresh as he swaps off. The Dynamite gets rid of Sanguinar as well right after the res comes through, so still going to be operating a man down are the London Spitfire. Glister again, the headshot comes in, and Prophet just asserting dominance, showing his veteran status right here. That being said, Jester will
look at the... Yeah, I mean, he gets the kill, and then immediately goes on the high ground and starts taking pot shots. It's fish in the barrel for him. Before JMac can even close the gap, he already predicts the leap. He's like away before JMac's feet leave the ground, finds Glister. Prophet is killing it right now.
Yep, he is killing it, and everyone. He does fall, Toby. Gonna try to get into a position to get the res. He's right up in front. And it will cost him dearly moving up like that. Babel with a very fast EMP build here overall. Does manage to find 3 as the London Spitfire look for a fast flip into their favor, which they will find right as Seoul Dynasty hit 30%. So not gonna get shut out of another round. They are hungry to take us to University, and where they will try to close things out. But let's see if they can get the victory here on City Center first. Hits with the EMP, dangerously close.
Yeah. That's the big thing here. They're gonna have, I mean, pretty much everything. They're gonna have all 6 ultimates coming online here soon. The question is, how many do they have to use to take the point? They want to be extremely efficient if they can. London Spitfire also has great defensive tools here, so I think the EMP is required. I don't know if they can engage without it. Bob out for Glister to buy time. It is, of course, just immediately neutered there.
Yeah, they sleep him. JMac goes in to zone back Badoshan around the corner as Gesture had already fallen. So, again, decent here from London Spitfire. Just the Bob tossed out. They buy themselves some time as Babel tries to get caught up to Fitz, which would technically be him lapping Fitz.
They're just trying to, it's a war, it's almost a cold war of ultimates, you know, if you use yours, I'll use mine, but otherwise I'm just going to hold on to these. But that favors London Spitfire in the stalemate here, the standoff right now. Fitz needs to engage with this EMP. Bob comes out first. They're losing so much time right now, Seoul Dynasty are.
They are. Primal Rage from J-Mac, however, not able to find too much, but a great collapse comes in. They pinch in onto Prophet, they finish him off. Now, the Anubis comes out, and J-Mac's not really sure which way to look. They'll eventually drop down here onto Bedosian. EMP comes through, solo onto J-Mac. They're trying to keep him alive, and so far, it's working out wonderfully for the London Spitfire. Bomb going to be dumped by Kleston. 2U matching. Neither going to be able to find any picks, and both will make it back into the mech safely. Rez comes out from Sanguinar, however, given the space brought by the self-destructs to bring J-Mac back into the fight. Abel holding on by a thread sliver of HP remaining for him. Now has an EMP online as Fitz will fall. Prophet finds him, however, cuts him down, gets a second onto Glister. But London Spitfire, they don't really mind. They have time on their side for the moment. That EMP can be absolutely massive. Them getting this point back in their control and closing it out to take us to University.
Yeah, Seoul Dynasty, on the other hand, they have positional advantage, right? That's what they're going to have to use. They're going to have to rely on Prophet getting kills here. Perhaps he could help shut down Babel as he's trying to approach for the EMP. If they spy check him, it gets a lot easier. You know, Bedosian, if he has that same angle, can maybe sleep Babel out of the EMP. There are ways to win this and close this out 2-0, even though, as you say, London Spitfire do hold all the cards here. So all eyes on Prophet here as he does take a body shot. He's looking for just one kill. Bob's out.
EMP was used, managed to find Fitz and Gesture. They almost kill the former, but they can't quite get him. A follow-up hack goes out on the Gesture, but he stays safe, and now they have an Anubis to invest into the Winston as well if he falls low. Blister gets the one tap, can't finish off Prophet though. But Bob's just going to be on the point. J-Mac with a Primal Rage into the back lines is going to be slept. The Bionade comes out, he is hacked, he cannot leap away. EMP comes through from Fitz, finds both of the tanks as J-Mac tries to stay alive. Nano Boost is used onto him in the fight, and so far working out decently for them. Bionade on the Kleston as well, but not enough damage coming through onto these tanks to break them down for the London Spitfire. But Seoul Dynasty have not enough time. They're now above 90%. They are approaching 99% here. Babel going to be hacked. Will not be able to translocate out. So far has not been eliminated yet, and he is getting closer to that next EMP. Kleston, however, loses it on the mech. Gestures in the back line. The sleep dart does not connect. Krillin going to be taken down 99 to 99%, down 3 members. London Spitfire getting so close, but not close enough, it would seem. Rez comes out from Sanguinar to bring the Dia back in. Will make it back into the mech, but is taken out just as quickly as he had re-arrived. The OT starting to bleed away. They get a minor tag in. Babel would just love to get this EMP ready, but Sanguinar will be focus fired. The OT will tick down, and unfortunately for the London Spitfire, they cannot pull off this victory. They cannot take us to that third and final round of Oasis. Seoul Dynasty will put their foot down and says, no more of this, and they close out the series for the third time in 2 weeks over London.
Yeah, they do win 3 in a row. It's a tough night to be a London fan. You felt, like this is our chance. You felt like there's hope throughout that series. Very, very back and forth. I mean, even that last round could have gone their way. They had the advantages, but they weren't able to capitalize on them. They weren't able to execute. But that was a 5-map series worthy of our final regular season game in APAC. That's the end of our season here for the Asia region. It's been a great 29 weeks. Obviously, some of those weeks, played elsewhere in the world for the homestands.
Yeah.
Some of the Asian teams did get to travel, obviously, but some of the teams who ended up being in Asia did get to travel. But for everybody else, I mean, it's been a grueling, long season, played from home, not played like they expected it to be, but
yeah,
it's over now. We did it, and you London Spitfire, it's unfortunate to lose that last map, but all eyes on playoffs now, and we are looking towards lifting a trophy right now. Yeah. That's what the teams are focusing on, is lifting that trophy, not winning these small regular season games anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's downtrodden as I'm sure a lot of the London Spitfire fans are feeling, and maybe even to a certain extent the Seoul Dynasty fans might not be having too much confidence instilled in them, just because of how close the series was. It will all come down to how they finish. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Unfortunately for the regular season, it's pretty weak for both of these teams, but there is the playoffs on the horizon where they can buckle down, they can get ready, go into overhauling their preparation, and maybe they can make a deep run. We'll have to see. I think it's a little bit unlikely, but you never really know. And I think that it would be a major redemption arc for either of these teams to have even a strong playoff run if not making it, further towards the end for their fans. So we'll have to see what happens in that regard. Our player of the match, though, on the side of the Seoul Dynasty is Prophet, who continues to look very good on this Ashe, but I do have to give the shout out to the silent carry alongside him constantly at every twist and turn, which was Toby, who was constantly bringing him back in the fight so Prophet could continue to fill the kill feed.
Yeah, Toby absolutely killed it as well. Really empowered Prophet. Also kept him alive, kept him rezzed up. A ton of important moments. Obviously, we're going to watch this Reaper play there, which was pretty cool. And again, was partially empowered by Toby on the sound barrier. I mean, just Prophet knowing where he figured out, I think, at some point during the series, especially in the latter half, where Glister wants to be. You can see these shots that Prophet takes where Glister just appears, his head is right on Prophet's crosshair, like he just knew it was going to be all along. Then Prophet, as soon as he kills Glister, he just jumps up to the high ground with Coach Gun, chases down some kills. He's deadly, he's lethal. And, I mean, you can say what you want about Prophet's ability to run hit scan in an extremely intelligent way. Sometimes his positioning on, for example, McCree can, it could leave something to be desired, but no one will ever question his ability to click on heads. His ability to set up big ultimates like this one. That's Prophet, man. He can play any hero at the highest level. That's one of the reasons why many still consider him today to be the greatest player of all time.
Well, we can say that, but we might have to add the caveat of except Sombra, except McCree after what happened yesterday. But I agree with you. He's still one of the most flexible players in the world and has had a bit of a resurgence here this year. Started off pretty flat and certainly has just kind of been looking better and better as time has gone on. He's regained a lot of the glory that has been attributed to him over his years of play in Overwatch. So it's good to see him bounce back. It's good for Seoul Dynasty to see them pick up this victory. But now it is all about the playoffs, guys, here in the APAC region. Of course, there is still another day of North American matches. That's going to be coming up a little bit later on because I can't see what time it is. But make sure you guys check out those matches. See the
11:30
conclusion. There you go, 11:30 a.m. See the full conclusion of the regular season across both regions, and then get ready to make your predictions for the playoffs because it should be an absolutely wild ride. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have off next weekend, but we'll see you back here when the playoffs kick off with the APAC action, so make sure you guys tune in then. Until then, have a good one. We'll see you next time.